Welcome guys, welcome to this video. This video we are going to use Laravel and JavaScript, and we are going to add a PDF viewer. So the thing is, you can implement this in any website. You can add in your website, and you can give the custom pagination so that user can see multiple pages. So we are going to use 30-page PDF here. So here is the outcome. Here I have this PDF viewer. So currently I'm on first page. I click on next page. There is a timeout set up there that holds for a time and then loads the next page. So I click next and it loads the next page. We can add the loading or custom pagination more advanced. If you want me to, we can do that. But for now, this is what we are going to create in this particular video. And the code is also available for download. All the links are in the description. So let's get started. Alright guys, to start with, first of all we need to have a Laravel project. So I'm going to go to the Laravel website. So Laravel and installation. Now make sure you have the Composer or node.js installed. Both softwares needs to be installed in your system, because when we create a project in Laravel we require Composer. And for running any npm command, you will be needing the node.js. So here you can see that Composer create project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the Power Bash here, PowerShell. Now here I'm going to go to CD desktop, and in desktop I'm going to create this project. So I'm copy this, paste here. Now we can give it name PDF viewer. And just going to create the project. If you face any error, that means you don't have the Composer installed, so make sure to have it installed. You can check the link in the description for installation guide, how you can install it. Alright guys, installation is complete and I have a folder on my desktop here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open this in the text editor, and here. So we also need to have the local server running. So for this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go inside the folder. So we created the folder with the name of PDF viewer. So there we say PHP artisan serve to start the development server, and it's artisan. Sorry about that. So here is the link we need to go to. So copy this, go here, paste, and you can see our Laravel app is up here. Alright, so now we are ready to work with this. So here in the text editor, I'm going to go, and let me make it bigger. So basically we have here routes, where we have web.php, and there is a single route which is responsible for this page, whatever we are seeing here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to this file. So this file is located in resources, views, and then welcome.blade. Now here we need to make some changes. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove everything, the complete div from here. And I'm going to save this. Now if I go back here and refresh, it's going to be white. So we need to add some content according to our requirements, what we want. So we basically want here, first of all, a title. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a div with the class of container, and we are going to use Bootstrap for styling to make because that's going to make our life easier, and it's going to be quicker than other processes. So here in this container, I'm going to create h2, and I'm going to call class display -4 just for our size, and here I say PDF viewer. Alright, that's going to be the main title on the page. Then here, what do we want? We want to have two buttons. So here I say div with the class of row, and here I want to have everything centered. So here I'm going to say justify content MD center. All right, and then I'm gonna give margin, so margin 3 and also padding 3. Okay, inside this div I'm going to create a button, and I'm gonna give it a class of BDN and then BDN primary. So it's gonna be blue button, and there we're gonna just put the text previous, so we're gonna to go to the previous page as we are creating the custom button. So these buttons gonna look like this. So I'm gonna copy the button here and just gonna paste here. This one going to be the next, and I'm gonna change the class to info light blue, so it's gonna like sky blue. Now what else we need to do? We need to work with the bootstrap. So I'm gonna go back here and gonna look for CDN. So I'm gonna say here bootstrap CDN, and let's get one. So here we have bootstrap 5 currently, so I'm gonna go here. It says HTML. Yeah, this is the one we need. I copy this, and we need to include it in our project. So here I just add it right there. If you want, you can add bootstrap as a comment here as well. Or yeah. So if I go back now here, refresh, you can see that it's looking like this. Now the buttons are taking full width. I don't want that, so we can add some further classes here in the buttons. Here I say call -3, and also padding I want to add here. So I want to say 2 padding and margin 2. The same way we want to say here call 3 and padding 2 -2 and margin -2, just like that. Alright, so it's gonna take the width to half, so you can see now we have some padding and the button's looking fine. So in here, in this area, I want to display the PDF, so let's work with that. So here, what we want to do here, we want to first of all, I'm gonna create here a div, just another row. So it's gonna be div with the class of row and ROW. And here in the row, we also want things to be centered. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste here. All right. Now after that, we want to use HTML canvas. So we're gonna say here canvas. All right, and I want to pass it an ID, and I want to say this ID is PDF area. All right, so or you could call anything PDF output area or anything. Yeah, we can also give it a class. So I'm gonna give it a same class. Just gonna copy and paste there. All right, so this is done. Now what else we need? Basically, we need to include a library, which is going to be for the PDF rendering. So for that, we go back here, Google, and here we are looking for our PDF.js. All right, so we come here. You can see that this PDF.js GitHub. So here, basically, this is if I go to demo here. So this is the main project that we are going to be working. So we can install it using npm or any way you like. We can use CDN as well. So we have here CDNs. So we're going to include it using CDN. And just go back here in our project. We have the body is closing here. I'm going to say script. And here in script, we're going to say source. And in source, we're going to pass the CDN. So this PDF.js is going to read and help us get the data from the PDF. The other thing we want to do, we want to create ourselves a separate file. So it's going to be script, and I want to add a file here, source. So what I do, I create a file inside a public folder. So if I go here, in Laravel application, we store all the files in public. So here I create a folder. It's going to be assets. And in assets, we are going to create another folder that's going to be JS. And in JS folder, we are going to create a file which is going to be main.js. Alright, this is going to be the main file, and all our application code going to be go here. So what we need to do here now, what we want to do basically, we want to include this file. So here I say asset, and inside assets we have the, you can see that it already picked automatically, so we can just hit enter. So it's added. So this asset goes to public folder. There we have assets folder, then we have JS, and then main.js. Now to see if it is working, we simply can say here alert hello, and let's see if on page refresh it works or not. So I go back here and refresh, and we get the hello, so that's all right. Now I go to console and see if there is any error. So we have an error here because of the library. So what I do, I can include this min.js link instead of the one we included. So here, just gonna replace this with this one, and let's see if the error just goes away. So here refresh, hello, and we don't have error, so that's good. Now go back to the text editor, and there we need to now work with our code. So here what I'm gonna do, because we are main.js here, we're gonna create a class. So let's create a class, and I'm gonna call this class as main class, and this main class is going to have the code that we are going to be working on. So here basically I want to first of all create a constant, or I create a URL, sorry, URL, and it is going to be equal to, so I have a PDF folder here, PDF file. So if I open this, I have a single file in it, and if I open this file with a browser, you will see a file with 30 pages. So it's just a demo file. So this is the one we are going to use to load in our application. So what I'm going to do, basically, I'm going to include this file folder to our project. So I simply going to cut this, and now we can go into video viewer, public, we have assets folder here, and then JS. Next to the JS folder, I include this PDF file. So you can see now it is also available here now. So now we can include it in our code. So here what I'm going to say, equals, and then dash out, and again dash out. So this is main.js, dash out gonna take us one folder outside, and after that it should get us to I think I should put here PDF file. Let's see if it works. PDF file / pdf.pdf. Alright, now once we have this, what else we want? We want few properties to create. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to create a static property. It's going to be PDF doc. I will set it to null. And when you create a static property, just put the static keyword in front of it. Now another static property going to be static, and that's going to be page num. And by default, we're going to load the first page, so it's going to be page num equal 1. And total pages, for that we are going to create num pages. So here static num pages. Initially we don't know how many pages, but we know in our PDF we have 30 pages, so we will set it to, we will update this property in the code. So I'm gonna just remove this. Alright, now what we want to do here, in class we have a constructor that runs. So we say constructor, and in this constructor what we want to do, we want to call the function, and the function is going to be the get data. So let's create it. So we simply say here this.get data, and we need to pass here page num, so that by default when this function runs, it is going to load the first page. So I say here page num. Alright, and that's it. So we need to create this function. So outside here I said get data, and this get data takes a parameter page num, and inside it what we want to do, we want to use the PDF.js library. So we're gonna say here PDF.js and lib. All right, and we say dot get document, and here we want to pass the URL, the file that we have here. So this is the URL we need to pass. So we say this dot URL. All right, and after that we want to get the promise, and here it's going to be dot then, and then we are going to receive a response. And when we get the response, what we want to do with it? So we want to set up. So when we have the response, we just want to save it. So we can call here main class, the class we have here, and we can get here this PDF doc. So here, spelling mistakes, sorry about that. So here we can say PDF doc, and it gets the response. So this is the response we are storing in it. And then here also we can get num pages. So this response is going to have the data, and I'll show you in a moment. So first what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say main class again, dot num pages, and equals main, and then PDF, because we are putting in here, so we can call this here. So PDF doc and dot num pages. All right, so here this response has a property num pages in it, and we can see that. So we can say here console.log, and I'm gonna say here a response. Okay, now let's go back to browser. If I refresh, nothing gonna change here, basically because we created the class, but we are not calling this class anywhere because we need to create an object to make it work. So for that, I go to welcome.blade. Here at the bottom, I'm going to create script, and here, as we have the main JS on top, we can create an object. So we can say here, let's say let main equals new main. All right, now this class will be called, and let's see what happens. So refresh the page, and I added this instead. It's not correct, so correct that. Sorry about that. So here it's this. Refresh. Page num is not defined. Here we need to pass this dot page num. Also, I noticed here there is t missing. So all right, let's refresh the page, and this time now we get that PDF file. PDF is not there. So we need to correct the path here. So go back here. So we have the assets JS and assets PDF file. So let's put here assets instead, and then PDF file, and yeah, it should go for by default public folder. It should work. Refresh. Now you can see we get an object here. Now if I expand this, we have PDF info, we have num pages 30 that we can use, and we have some other information. Basically we need to use this num pages, so let's do that. So if I go back to the code, and here you can see that we are calling it, and here the console log that we just added. Okay, now what we can do, we need to create a function that is going to get the page num and going to work with the file. So we are passing it a parameter, but we are not using it. So I'm going to create a function here, and I'm going to include that function. I'm going to fire that function when we call this get data at last here. So here I'm going to say main, and I'm going to call this render page. Alright, and this function will take this page num as a parameter and pass it here like this. Okay, now we're going to create this. As we are calling it using main, this is going to be static render and render page, and it is getting a page num, or I simply call it num so we don't get confused. Alright, inside this function we need to get the canvas so that we can display our content. So we say let, and it's going to be canvas is equal to document dot query selector. Okay, so selector, and we need to pass the ID we have here, PDF area. So let's copy that ID and pass that ID here, and there should be spacing between it. Now here also what we want to do, we want to create another function, so it's going to call CDX, and this function is going to get the canvas dot here. Also we can call let scale how wide this PDF output should be. I'm gonna call it 1.5. Okay, and then here we need to work with the output. So here I call main dot, and we need to get the PDF doc dot get page. We are passing the num, and then we are saying then. Alright, and here we will get a response as page. Alright, and then what we want to do, we want to do something with it. So here what we can do basically, I call is response page response, and here inside what we want to do, we want to say here a constant, and it's going to be view port. Now, a few things are here quite predefined. I will show you why I'm calling these. So because here we need to get the page and get viewport, so it's going to be page response dot get view, and it's going to get port, and we're going to pass the value of the scale variable inside here. So we're going to pass it like this. Alright, now the next step is setting the canvas height and width, how wide and you want it to be. So I say canvas dot height, and that's going to be equal to viewport and dot height, and then canvas dot width, that's going to be equal to again viewport dot width. Alright, so now once this is done we can render. So here inside this I also say constant, so we have the getting content here CDX, so we can call it render CDX, and that's going to be equal to an object, and that's going to be canvas and context, as we are following the camel casing here, and set it equal to CDX, so we are just getting that and assigning it here. Alright, and the second we are passing the viewport, simple. Okay, now at last we want to render it, so it's gonna be page response dot render, and then here we want to pass here render, right copy and paste here simply. Alright, so it should do the trick. Okay, so we have a few mistakes. I think it's gonna be document, and also it's gonna be colon instead of equal to sign, and rest all looks good, so we can check it now. So if I go back here and refresh, document. Okay, refresh. Okay, so I made a mistake. It's not get content and get context, just like here. So it should be fine now. Now we have main PDF is null, which is so we are getting the PDF.js lib here, and then the promise, and then here. So this should be called inside and not outside. So here it should be here. So now this should be fine. And then now if I here let's console.log, and I want to pause the page num here. And refresh, and it is undefined. So we need to pause here main, and now refresh, we get 1, and you can see that we have the content showing up there. So yeah, so because it was static, we need to use the main instead of this. Now we are passing it here to the render function and log2. So we have a render page. So this is rendering. Want to work with now pagination. So for that we need to create here another function. So here I create a function called let's call it static. Add some functionality. So what I want to do, I want to say if main, all right, main, because if I go up here, we have all the properties static except the URL. So here we need to work with the page num. So page num is static, so we can call it here. So we say here page num, and it's going to be like this. And if it is more than or equal to, and here we want to say main. So we know the main num pages, which is equal to the total pages, and that is basically we are receiving 30 pages in this case. So if it is 30 or is more than 30, we want to return. It's not going to allow user to do anything. If it is less than 30, only then we will be allowing user to re-render. And here simply we want to say main dot page, because we need to increase it as well. So we want to do plus plus. So each time we click, it is going to check if it is more than 30 or not, and if not, it is going to increase it by 1. And here we can re-render it. So what we can do, we can say here main dot render page, and main dot render page, if you remember this function here, render page is taking a num, and that num we are passing here and get page, so that we can pass here. So here we need to pass simply the main page num. So copy that, paste here, and it should do the trick. Now the thing is, we don't have it connected to this button anywhere, so we need to do that. So we copy this function from here, go to welcome.blade. We know that we are including the class here, so we can deal with the buttons. So here simply can say on click, all right, and we want to call the class. So we say main, and then this function, and if all is fine, it should work. So you can see that the main class here, the main class there, same way. So here I say, I don't know why it's skipping a bit. So here what I'm going to do, refresh. Now let's see if it works. If I click next, we have the next page, and that's good. Next, another page, great. Now let's work with the previous page because currently it's not working. So if I go back here, and we can simply, and it's gonna copy this comment for previous page, and here are gonna be static and show previous. We want to check the same condition again, so this goes right here. After that, if the page because it is not going to increase this time, we need to change it a bit. So we need to check when we go, because when we click next, it's going to increase each time. When we click on preview, it's going to decrease. So we need to make sure it doesn't go below 0, so, because we have at least one page, so it's going to be less than, or going to be returning, it won't work afterwards. Or you can add a message or something if you want to, or you can start set this to the maximum number of pages, whatever you prefer, you can do that. But for now, I'm going to disable user if user reaches to the page 1. Now here, after this check, we want to say main dot page num, and it's going to be minus minus. All right, and now once this is done, we need to re-render it. So here, render page, I call it here. All right, now let's see if it works. Refresh. So here is the first page. I click next, we get the next page, and I click preview previous, and it won't work because I made a mistake. I did not add this, sorry about that. So we need to go back to welcome.blade. The way we added here, we need to add here too. So let's add there. So we say simple on click. All right, and I want to add main dot and previous page. Yeah, now it should work because now it's connected with the button. So let's see. So this is the first page, and we go to the next page. This is the page, next page, and this is the previous page back. So we are back to the previous page. Now there is one thing, we're using this render 2 places, so we can take it out from here. And what I want to do, I want to add a timeout as well. So what I do basically, I'm going to call here a static method, and this method canvas, and all this function going to do, it is going to have a set timeout of let's give it a timeout of 500 milliseconds. You can set up that there. So after exact 500 milliseconds, it's gonna fire the main render function. And here, what do we want to do? We want to call this here. So it's gonna be main dot re-render, simply like that. Copy this and copy paste here. Alright, it should work now. Let's refresh. So by default we have the first page, we go to the next page, it loads the next page, again further, we can keep on going. It will give a bit of a gap here for 500 milliseconds. So if you want to go back, we can go back, and we can show a loader if you want to, while this is when you click and it loads. So yeah, that can be done. And one thing I want to correct before closing this video, that this is too wide currently. So what we can do for that, we can go back to here, and I'm going to add the, basically because we are rendering it here, so I take this ID, and here I add a CSS, a bit of CSS. So here simply I'm gonna say width, now let's add 50%. Let's see if it looks better. So refresh. So you can see it looks a lot better now. So yeah, so yeah.